So tonight we're going to talk about the search for Ithaca. So how many have read the Odyssey by Homer? Okay, everybody. Okay, maybe you've seen a movie about it. Same, right? Hollywood's great, right? Okay. There's nothing like Ulysses the Great general King Ulysses. He was the first person ever to win the Olympic Games. Did you know that? You know, if you know from the reading Homer, you know, you also wrote the Iliad. So in gathering together the great generals of Greece to sack Troy, sadly, sack Troy. And, you know, they found that it really happened, by the way. They really did level it. And you can find the remains of the city with the big gates. They gathered all the great generals and kings of Greece, and one of them was Ulysses. And Ulysses was very special. He was very cunning. He was very athletic. He won all these games. By the way, the first Olympics was supposedly done in the nude. So they were not, you know, they wouldn't televise them today. Perhaps, I don't know. Maybe in France they would. But yes, he was quite the athlete. He was a general. He was king, and he was, in a sense, the hero of the Trojan War, as told by Homer in the Iliad. He created the Trojan horse. That was his great idea, and they jumped out and they conquered Troy. And afterward, King Ulysses had the problem of getting home. Now they had brought their own complement of soldiers from their island kingdoms. In his case, he came from Ithaca, and this island kingdom of Ulysses had a number of young fighting men who went with him to Troy, and they all wanted to go home with Ulysses. So they all got in this big wooden sailing ship, and they tried to get home. And then starts the story of the Odyssey, because the arc of Odysseus, the arc of this hero's journey, really wasn't winning the Olympic Games. It really wasn't becoming king. It really wasn't, winning the war. It was the arc of his journey home. Then started his great discovery of insight that only comes with the arc of a hero's journey, because he was tested, severely tested on this journey. We'll get into Odysseus a bit later, but I would like to suggest to you that Ithaca was not so much a place as a metaphor for something much bigger, much bigger. And if you don't believe me, believe Jean Houston. Jean Houston wrote a wonderful book, The Goddess and the Hero, which is about the transformation that comes through studying the story of Odysseus. It is a story of transformation. And that is the great teaching of the arc of the hero's journey. Now, we've seen a demise in modern cultural heroes in recent years. And for some time, people complained about that. And they said, well, we once had Charles Lindbergh. We once had Amelia Earhart. We once had John Glenn and Neil Armstrong. They were all great explorers, right? Those were great heroes. But were they? I mean, were they? You know, they went out and they had a great journey. But what did they really learn? They learned that you could fly a plane across the Atlantic, or you could land a spacecraft on the moon, or you could get lost at sea, as poor Amelia apparently did. And they were amazing, but then we said, where are the next great heroes? Because our idea of a hero seems to be connected to great accomplishments, like Barney Oldfield could drive his car so fast, or Gaston Chevrolet was a great racer, you know. That is a hero. Sports figures are heroes. People who are explorers are heroes. But really, these are people that go out and they look for treasure. They look for land, you know. They sail across the sea looking for new lands to discover. Like, you know, like they're lost. I mean, was America ever lost? I mean, but it was discovered. It seemed like everyone who lived here kind of knew where it was. And so then we came up with the idea of the anti-hero, right? This would be someone who would be a little bit darker, but like we could relate to an anti-hero because we all have a good side and we all have a dark side. So we could relate to this person. Then we came up to comic book heroes. We came up to Spider-Man and we came up to Superman and Batman. But these were people who were born with capes. They were born with superpowers, and they really did not have any sense of discovery along the way, like poor Odysseus trying to get his ship and his soldiers back to Ithaca. So there are other great examples, and some of them are actually written by Theosophists, so I'll mention some of them. Dorothy in the Land of Oz is really written story. L. Frank Baum wrote a story, and it was made to a great movie. If you're a Judy Garland fan, Judy Garland always said to her dying day, she never, ever got tired of somebody yelling from the back row, "I want to hear that song again from the movie, Somewhere Over the Rainbow," because she said, it makes people so happy. Of course, it is great discovery, somewhere over the rainbow. You know, and so Dorothy in the Land of Oz is a tremendous story of discovery and transformation. I mean, let's examine it for a minute. I mean, the wind carries her away, and like in the hero's journey, she leaves the known world into the unknown world, and she has to find her way in uncertain territory. She's met with supernatural foes, not to mention flying monkeys and those troublesome little munchkins with all their clever little witty things that they try to do. And in wizards and in witches along the way. Some are good and some are bad, and who would know the difference, right? You know, like, what kind of witch are you, they ask her. So she goes to the Land of Oz, and she has a great discovery in walking down the yellow brick road. The arc of her hero's journey brought her to a point of great personal discovery, insight, and personal transformation. She learns at the end, there's no place like home, which is the whole point of the arc of the hero's journey, is to complete the journey and return home a transformed person from what you've learned. Those are the treasures that you find. It's not gold, it's insight and personal discovery. It's personal, spiritual transformation. She clicks her heels and she's instantly home because the power is always in you. You just have to find it. She always had the power within her, she's told. And she did. She clicked her heels, and just like that, just like in our meditation, she's back in her home. And what's the first thing people tell her? Oh, you were dreaming. You were never gone at all. Well, of course, she was the only one from her home in Kansas, only one from her farm who was actually there. But she said, you were there. The handyman, the scarecrow was there, and they were all there. The lion was there. They were all there. Even the wizard, from the traveling show, and her little dog was there all the time with her. It's a great story written by a theosophist. So then another story written by a great theosophist about the arc of the hero's journey would have to be a little different. It is Alice Through the Looking Glass, or Alice in Wonderland. So Alice goes down the rabbit hole, and lo and behold, she's on a new footing. She has left the known world, and she's now in the unknown world. And she accepts the challenge, and she is determined to find her way all the way to the end. And she does. She combats many supernatural foes along the way. Remember that nasty Queen of Hearts, and the troublesome rabbit, and she finds her way all the way to the end and returns home a different person. But she had to get very small to do this. And then she learned from this experience. She went on a journey. There is another story I like almost as well as the Odyssey, and that is the Bhagavad Gita. Now, it means different things to different people because it is so rich in spiritual truth and insight. But I would like to introduce the Bhagavad Gita at this point as also the arc of the hero's journey. We have Arjuna, the hero, Prince Arjuna, and he's riding on a chariot into a battle, a civil war, really. And on his chariot, as his guide, is Lord Krishna, a divine figure. And he whispers in his ear what he is to observe and take in and learn from this. Because throughout this journey into unknown territory, leaving the safety of his home behind, the prince goes into unknown territory of a tremendously challenging and frightful battle with horrible losses and challenges and obstacles to face. And as he faces them, he gains an insight and he learns. He learns about himself, about human nature, human values, and spiritual truth. And so for him, the battle was filled with personal insight. So you say, what were the ruins of war? What treasures did he take back from the battlefield? Well, he found his soul. How about that? He became a greater man. He became more insightful and respectful of others. He understood his place in the universe, who he was. He knew his responsibilities. We had a member of the Minneapolis Theosophical a number of years who was very near and dear to us. And that was Mary Shoquest. And Susan will indulge me if I tell the story again of the funeral. Because at Mary's funeral, which at the time was upstairs from where we used to meet, which was the Liberal Catholic Church in uptown in Minneapolis, we met in the sanctuary for Mary's funeral. She developed cancer rather suddenly, and she died quite quickly. We were quite amazed because she'd been so healthy. She played tennis almost up to the end, and then she was gone. And so I had spoken before at Mary's request when another leader of our group, Peter Morris, had passed. And Mary said, I think you should read some of Peter's favorite poetry. So when Mary's daughter said, what would Mary want you to say at her service? I said, I think Mary would like to hear a little bit from the Bhagavad Gita. And so I got up and I said, well, the Bhagavad Gita is a story of Arjuna, the prince, and he's guided in battle by the good counsel of Lord Krishna. And I said, that it was a very important story for Mary, and it had a lot of spiritual meaning for her. And I said, now Mary is on the chariot, and Krishna is whispering in her ear. And I think that's really true. I think when we're ready to listen, I think divine sources will speak to us. It's there. It's waiting for us if we're ready to listen. So then I was asked to say something personal about Mary, and I said, well, Mary, as you know, loved everyone. She was active in many many activities, spiritual and social and even political. She was very active in the Democratic Party. She would sign up voters. She'd worked on election day, counting ballots with the League of Women Voters. She also campaigned vigorously for many politicians. Now, I did not know that Senator Mondale was in the back row of the service. But I found out because when I said, Mary loved everyone, she loved everyone. I said, she was a Democrat who even loved Republicans. He let out this big boisterous laugh. And I said, oh my gosh, I've said too much. So I hope tonight I won't say too much, but you can laugh, but just mute yourself if you do, okay? So I'd like to point out some other important stories that demonstrate the arc of the hero's journey. We will be taking a break because I know you need your tea and your coffee and your bathroom break. I do. I would like to talk about the search for the Grail quest. Now, all of the knights of the Round Table were sent out in this holy mission to find the Grail. And the kingdom would not be the same until this holy Grail was found. It was said to be many things. One group of people thought it would be the chalice or the cup that was used by the Christ at the Lord's Supper. There were many ideas what the quest was all about. But these poor knights, they went out and they searched and they searched. And it just seemed like the kingdom was never going to be the same for King Arthur and his kingdom if these knights did not find the Grail quest, because not having found the Grail quest, they were not spiritually whole as a community. And the kingdom suffered and the king suffered. But finally, Percival prevailed and he found it. And it's a story of really perseverance and humility and learning along the path, because many knights went out and many knights failed. We have also from Greek mythology, Jason's search for the golden fleece, Jason and the Argonauts. Jason's Argonauts were searching for the golden fleece. We have the story of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh who fought the evil creature that was terrorizing the community throughout the land, and how he'd given his whole life to battling this creature. Now, we also have to think about the fool's journey, because in the arc of the hero's journey, we have a great tradition of people looking rather foolish when they jump off from the known world and they go into the unknown world. You know, it's just like a great departure, huge departure. I mean, we have the story of Siddhartha, the Buddha, who left his wife and his son and a kingdom behind, a kingdom that could have in time been a great kingdom for him. And he left to find something of greater value in the world, something of more treasure than he ever left behind. So we have the story of Don Quixote, the man from La Mancha, right? You know the story of Don Quixote? Raise your hand. Okay, I love Don Quixote because it's like the tarot card indicates, the fool's journey takes us into a great opportunity of discovery if we only will leave behind us the illusion of this easy, wonderful, comfortable life here in the known world we inhabit, to go into new territory, a jumping off, if you will. So the fool just throws a backpack over his, just like in the card, he has a little backpack and he throws it over his back and he takes off like a fool down the road. And you say, well, what a fool. But what a brave thing to do. And what a wonderful thing to do. If we think of like the man from La Mancha now, he was tilting at windmills, but he went on this journey to find truth and beauty and to bring to his people a sense of well-being and a better world. And that's really what that's what every hero on the arc of a hero's journey learns soon enough. We have in more modern literature, Forrest Gump, the man who sat on the park bench and opened up a box of chocolates. He said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. But he was, in a sense, the wounded healer, wasn't he? He was the wounded healer who left home, could barely walk. Remember those braces? And then he could run. And he learned that running was more inside your head than inside your legs. And he became a star runner. In fact, he saved many lives during the war by running soldiers who were wounded to safety. And then he became a great spokesman, turning against everything he'd seen in war as a terrible thing. Just like Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, he'd learned that war was not a wonderful thing at all. So I think a lot of times we think the hero's journey is all about finding treasures along the way. But if you think about a Humphrey Bogart movie, The Treasures of the Sierra Madre, now Bogey learned at the end that the treasure of the Sierra Madre wasn't the gold, because that all blew away in the wind, didn't it? At the end of the movie, all the gold blows away in the wind. It was like it was never really there. It just blew away. But at the end, he had the insight of having learned a lot about human nature and what was really important in life. And it wasn't the gold. So more recently, we have modern heroes in literature. We have Harry Potter on the arc of a hero's journey. Now you think this is an odd thing, but like the wounded healer, Harry Potter started off with no mother, no father, a terrible life. And he was given a chance to become a hero. But it took a lot of courage to go on this hero's journey. We have some of my favorite modern characters in literature. I'm going to go, here on you some more juvenile fiction. Katniss Everdeen. Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games was certainly on the arc of a hero's journey. Now, these are books that you can read, but I confess I've only read the movies. So I assume that they follow pretty much. And she consistently stayed the course on the arc of the hero's journey when offered many treasures and temptations along the arc of her hero's journey. She always had the back of the people around her. This is also part of the hero's journey. We have Pris, the Divergent, from the Divergent trilogy. Pris decided that people were all against each other and they were put into tribes, and she tried to make a difference. So we see in our modern cultural heroes today in the news, the one-day hero. There could be like Captain Sully, who lands a plane on the Hudson River in New York, and he's a hero for a day. Hero for a day. A New York hero for only one day, and the next day we don't remember who's Sully. Just like we don't remember exactly who was in the cockpit with Neil Armstrong. These people are quickly forgotten. So I think we need to look at the psychology model of the hero. In psychology, they look at the arc of the hero's journey much the way they do in literature. That it's like a big circle, and you start up here and you leave home. And leaving home is accepting a call. And then you go through the transition through a gate, and then you go through many challenges, and you come to the dark hour of the soul, and then you reach transformation, you're transformed, and you come back and you gain insight with every challenge you've overcome. So that's why they are heroes. They've overcome challenges. And the treasures they've absorbed are personal insights, spiritual truths. And the benefit to us is that a true hero on the arc of a hero's journey makes the world around them better, makes, like the good knight Percival, he brings stability and well-being back to the community. This is very important. But I'm more familiar as a writer with the literature model. In literature, we're all skilled, we're all told, drilled in this formula that there's an arc of the hero's journey. Now, it doesn't matter if you're watching Lifetime or Hallmark, and at Christmas, every movie about Christmas is the same. Somebody from some little town, they go off into the unknown, and then they find their way back home, don't they? And then they have little challenges along the way, and then they find their way back home, and they make everybody in their home happier by what they've learned. This is a real formula in literature, and it drives much of what we read and see in literature today as in the past. So just how much of a hero, just how heroic do you really need to be on such a quest? I think that's the point. So if we look at Ithaca, Ithaca, I mean, really, come on. I mean, Ithaca meant something to Odysseus and his little shipmates on that little wooden ship. But it didn't mean anything to anyone else. But I mean, consider now the many hundreds of years we've been all reading about Ulysses and the search for Ithaca. Ithaca is a metaphor for something much bigger. It is a search for home. And moreover, the arc of the hero's journey, when complete as a circle, makes that person whole. It brings wholeness to that person, completeness, spiritual wholeness and completeness. And as a whole person, in reaching that completion, that transformed person brings well-being and wellness to the community around them. In that sense, they're heroes to all of us. So I would like to suggest to you now that we're all engaged in a life adventure, like Odysseus. We're all engaged in a life adventure of great discovery. Now, some people see this as a spiritual path or a mission or your destiny, but it is your life. You know, it is exciting, isn't it? Now, most people would just spend all this excitement sitting on the sofa watching sitcoms. And some people actually take the plunge and they go out there and make a difference. So how do we make our life adventure, our spiritual journey, into the arc of a hero's journey? That's the key, isn't it? I would suggest to you that it's really something that's inside you. You know, you don't just wake up one day and say, I think I'm going to go on the arc of a hero's journey. Where are my good shoes? You find something deep inside you. In Theosophy, we call this our inner self, our higher self. Other people might call it their soul or their spirit. Some people might call it their inner voice. It is the part of you that's eternal. It's the part of you that knows everything about you. It's the part of you that was here before you were born. It's the part of you that's going to be here after you're physically gone. It is the part of you that knows where you should be right now and what you should be doing with your life. It is the part of you that knows where you're going to be in your next life. It is your true spiritual essence. This is then your inner self. So how do you awaken the inner self? Now, we sometimes refer to this as our higher consciousness, because it is the voice inside us, our consciousness, our intelligent energy within, that connects us to a higher consciousness, a source, a divine source. It is the part that allowed Arjuna to speak to Lord Krishna, a manifestation of God or the divine. So let's examine how to awaken the inner self and the hero within by looking at everything that's involved in the arc of the hero's journey. These are the steps you would take if you actually wanted to turn your life adventure of discovery and spiritual adventure, your life mission, into the arc of a hero's journey. Taking from classical literature, looking at the hero of 1,000 faces from mythologist. We look at the hero's journey as someone who awakens to the call to action. He hears the call. Now, many people, I say, I've received the call. I'm going to dedicate myself to service to humanity. I've heard the call. I'm going to be a healer. I've heard the call to action. I'm going to be a fireman. I've heard the call. I'm going to go into spiritual work. I've heard the call. But they awaken to the call, and it awakens something inside them. But the next thing is where they become on the arc of a hero's journey. They then consciously leave the known world, and they go into the unknown world. They leave all the comforts behind them of the known world. Everyone they know, their way of life, their whole comfort level. And now they're in deep woods. Now, I don't know if you've ever been lost in the woods. I have. And you just wander around and wander around and wander around. And you think, well, am I ever going to find my way home? Then you realize there's lots of people out there lost, and they're all looking to find their way out of the woods. And so I always think of this great quote from a theosophist named Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti was an Indian sage who, as a very young person, wrote a little booklet called At the Feet of the Master. It was really about spiritual path work. And in this book, he described learning to determine right action, learning to discover and only follow right thought. And then he said that there are only two kinds of people in the world. And he said there are those who know and those who do not know. Now, I would suggest to you that this is not just a cute little thing that he wrote. It is truth. It is knowing in the sense of gnosis, that you have an inner knowing what is true. You've listened to your inner voice. You've listened to your inner consciousness or your inner higher self. You've awakened the hero inside you. And the hero inside you tells you what is. And later on, we'll have a great speaker speak on discernment. This is really an important thing, because how else would you know what is right and what is not, So Krishnamurti said, and I always think of this if I get lost, even for a moment, truth is a pathless land. If you're looking for truth, you're not going to go on the well-traveled road. It's the road less traveled. It's the road not taken, as Mr. Frost reminded us, the road not taken. Truth is a pathless land. And so if you're on a pathless land, you're kind of all alone, aren't you? Think about it. The hero really is all alone. because you're in the unknown world. You're off the grid and you're lost. But you're not lost because you know the truth is a pathless land. When you're lost, you're beginning to discover truth. And that's exactly what the hero on the arc of a hero's journey does. Discovers truth in the unknown by encountering all these supernatural challenges and obstacles fearlessly, just for truth's sake. And then Krishnamurti said an amazing thing after that. He said, in this pathless land, in pursuit of truth, you must be your own teacher and your own student. There are no gurus that are going to carry you across out of the forest and into the street, put you in a car and drive you home. They're already sitting home. You have to do that yourself. It's a journey of discovery that you must do really basically alone. There are other things that you will have to encounter. You will have to overcome a gate challenge soon after you enter. Now you've accepted the challenge, you've left the known world, and you're starting off on your downward descent on the arc of the hero's journey. And immediately there's a gate challenge. Now, what did Dorothy say when she was challenged at the gate? She said, I want to see the wizard. I want to come in. And the gate guard said, well, not everybody can come to see the great, powerful Oz. Why should I let you in? And she explained that it was a horse of a different color. It truly is the horse of a different color. You must, as a hero, be able to overcome the gate challenge, because you will be challenged immediately in such a journey of discovery. Now, this is not a journey for the faint of heart. This is not a search for gold or treasure. This is a search for your soul. This is a search for insight and spiritual transformation. This is why we're here, every one of us. And the inner self in you, your inner hero knows this all too well. So you overcome the challenge of the gate and you continue on the journey. But then you encounter supernatural challenges. These are really difficult. In the case of Ulysses, the forces of the wind driven by divine sources would, cause his ship to go off course, or he'd have a wreck, or he'd be pulled ashore by sirens. He had all kinds of supernatural adversaries, but he battled them all one by one, took them on. And along the way, every great hero on the arc of a hero's journey will work with mentors. There is a Krishna out there for every one of us. We'll work with guides, we'll work with teachers, we'll work with helpers. All along the way, on your path, you will find all of these people. Some will appear as idiots, drunks in the street, crazy people. But you listen to every one of them, because some of them might be geniuses, might be super mentors, might be divine helpers disguised. So along the way, in battling all these great obstacles, the hero gains powers of personal insight. With every battle, something is learned, and the hero gains personal power. Now, in gaining these triumphs along the way, like the knights on the Grail quest, the victories won tend to bring comfort and benefit to the overall community. This is an important part of the arc of the hero's journey. We're seeing this more and more with the modern hero. We'll talk about that a little after the break, the modern hero. Now, at the bottom, the very bottom of the arc, before the hero can ever begin the upward ascent to return home, the hero reaches the great abyss and is really weighted down in swampland. This is like the dark hour of the soul. And in reaching the deep abyss, psychologists and literary scholars alike generally agree that the abyss is a challenge from which one either perishes or emerges stronger. One either dies there or survives. Many people at this point try to turn back. It is the go no go. It's the halfway point. You know, you could go back. You say, well, it's where I'm halfway there, and if it's this tough the rest of the way, I can't do it. I'm going. A lot of people will turn back, and so it is with the dark hour of the soul. Many people on a spiritual journey will come to the great abyss, and they'll say, I cannot proceed beyond this point. It is beyond me. Take this cup from me. And so if they emerge from the great abyss, they emerge stronger. They, in a sense, die to the life they once knew, and they're reborn as they emerge from the great abyss, stronger. A new person emerges from the great abyss, a changed person, a stronger person, a transformed person. So with this, we see the transformation of the hero on the arc of a journey, transformation of a deeply personal, spiritual nature. The hero then begins the upward swing with a new challenge in this new transformed body. And we see then the challenges that the new hero transformed now as a new person, how this hero responds in a different way on the upward swing. And as the hero gets closer to destination, closer to Ithaca, the hero receives the gift of the goddess, as told by Jean Houston in Goddess and the Hero. The gift of the goddess is something that Odysseus certainly received. He received favorable winds to blow him into the home port of Ithaca. But this could be many things. This idea of the goddess is a personification of primal forces, of nature, of favorable winds behind you. It is nature carrying you forward. It is the whole of creation at your back, giving you comfort and favorable winds behind you. Because you're now returning a champion. And then when you reach home as a new person, things are never the same again. You return to your community a much larger person, a transformed hero, and then life begins again. So at this point, I would like to take a break, and we'll talk about how life begins again and how the journey never ends and what it really, really means to us as a being without end. And then we'll talk about the emergence of the new hero in the pandemic age. So let's take a break.
Yeah, and you were talking about being born again, you know, and I'm going, exactly. I think that's exactly what the scriptures were talking about.
Exactly.
You know?
You go on a great,
and the only way you can go is up.
The historical genius with the historical Jesus went on a journey, and he came back at the age of 32, transformed.
Absolutely.
He was a different person to his community after the arc of his hero's journey. Yeah. And so did Pythagoras, he left and came back. So, okay, so we're talking about what it means to complete the arc of the hero's journey. You eventually then find your way home. There is the point where you're a transformed person, you've gained insight, you've battled enormous odds, and you've brought a great victories to your people. And the treasures you've found along the way are self-discovery and personal insight. And you are now a spiritually transformed person, not the same. You're of greater value to your people when you return. And then what do you do when you return from the journey? I would suggest to you that the real hero starts the journey all over again, that it's a never-ending story. This is the never-ending story, the arc of the hero's journey. So the hero's journey of transformation never really ends. So I would suggest to you that every life is meant to be a spiritual path, meant to be a mission, meant to be a journey of personal discovery, meant to be, in a sense, accepting all these challenges, to walk the unknown places into the pathless land where truth lives, and to gain these insights and discoveries and become transformed within your lifetime. And then I would suggest to you that in the context of your life, the return home is the return to source. It is upon death that you start the journey all over again. So I would suggest to you that it's a never-ending story, and it happens every lifetime, starts all over again. Some people will discover the need to heed the call and start the journey, as foolish as it seems, leaving the comfort of home behind, going on the journey. As a young person, some people will discover the need to begin the journey rather late in life. But the time to begin is always now. Now happens every instant. There's a new now. Now never ends. There was now, and then now there's a new now. Nows are ever abundant. It's always time to begin the new journey. So this is a journey that never, ever ends. Now we have in front of us an example of a totally new hero. It's not Neil Armstrong. It's not John Glenn. It's not Amelia Earhart, that brave soul. It is not Charles Lindbergh, the one-time hero. It is not even Captain Sully, is it? It is the people who have battled this pandemic. They're the people that actually work for the rest of us. They accepted a great challenge. They accepted the call, and they entered the unknown world of COVID-19, didn't they? When the rest of us were all scrambling for safety and comfort at home, they went out there and they did it. They were the nurses, the doctors, the EMTs, the people that stood in the line at the supermarket selling you food so you could go home and feed your family. These are the real heroes of the COVID-19 pandemic. These are really a new kind of hero, aren't they? Because if you think of it, the new hero doesn't really have to leave home, like Prince Siddhartha doesn't have to leave home, stays right at home and stays the course when everyone else is like buttoning up inside their house saying, I'm not going out there. Someone else can do it. Well, yeah, someone else did do it. I remember all these food lines. People couldn't get food, and so they were driving by and getting food. But think about the people that were actually passing out the food and driving the trucks and bagging the food. You know, they put themselves at great risk. The nurses, the hospital staff, all of these people put themselves. I remember seeing a fellow in St. Paul that would stand on street corners and he would play a saxophone to cheer people up. And sometimes he would go home and he'd do it from his balcony. He'd play his saxophone, you know, and I found out that he was homeless. He was living in a car. He didn't actually have a balcony. He just used a balcony. These are great heroes. I mean, they accepted the call. They went into the unknown territory. The unknown territory was the pandemic world when the virus hit. It was suddenly a terribly unknown world. We'd never been there before. So sometimes the hero is the person who just stays around and helps, you know. The heroes in a war are often the ones that'll just stand their ground and watch the rest of them, you know. A hero is a person who will listen to that inner voice within them and realize that we're really here for each other. We'll realize that we're meant to be whole, and being whole isn't just simply your being whole. That's just the start. Then it's making your whole community whole. Looking out for your friends. I think of all the people that went door to door during that pandemic, and they were bringing diapers to people that couldn't get diapers for their kids. And they were leaving things on doorsteps for people who didn't have the opportunity or the means to go out and get anything. It was a terrible time. I mean, honestly now, think about it. And this could have been like the Black Plague, you know. It was really doomsday, you know, a year ago. And we're not out of the water yet. But it's like, didn't you honestly think that the world was going to kind of implode on itself? Didn't you think the economy was going to tank? There would be no jobs left. There would be no food for anybody. Everything would stop. There would be no, you know, transportation. It looked like it was the end, you know. If you think back to, you know, the bubonic plague, they were afraid to come out of their homes. They would send a cart up and down the road yelling for people to bring out their dead and put them on the cart, and they'd take them away. You might never know where they were after that. That was just all there was. But there were very, very heroic people in this age. Now, they weren't like Sully, didn't wear you know, an airline captain's cap, sporty little, you know, captain's uniform like Captain Sullivan. They weren't generals. They weren't princes. They weren't charming girls from Kansas. They were just everybody. It's the age of the everyday hero. This is what we're looking at. The age of the everyday hero. This is the new consciousness, I think. It's when everybody is looking inside themselves and finding the inner hero. And every one of us has this inner hero. Every last one of us. So at this point, I'd like to open it up for discussion. I'd like to hear what you think, and maybe you can talk about some heroes you've known or some thoughts about the subject. Anybody? Come on.
And just click on the unmute.
Unmute.
Button on the menu and unmute yourself. Or let's see if I can see you. I can unmute you, I think, if you raise your hand. But otherwise, just unmute yourself. We'd love to hear from you. And should we stop the recording, Bon, or is it okay if we record your questions and discussions? I always kind of want to.
Well, it's up to you. I always think it's more important what people have to say. You know, in Theosophy, we always think that the individual has complete right of interpretation, goodness gracious, I'm not presenting the Theosophical point of view. I don't know that there is a Theosophical point of view.
True. Okay, I'll leave the recording going.
There is one thing. Are you familiar with the poem Ithaca of Constantino Cavafis?
Yeah.
What is your? I find it beautiful.
It's been a long time since I've read it. Could you familiarize us with it a little bit?
Yeah. Well, Cavafis was a Greek poet from Alexandria of Egypt. His parents were Greek, so it's he wrote that poem, I believe, in 1903, and it's amazing. So what is Ithaca? Is the metaphor for the human journey through life. It is for all the destination. And what he thought about is the meaning of life. Ithaca for Cavafis, and each one of us try to reach our goals. It's important not to lose sight of the journey. This journey is what it offers us wisdom and make us rich in experiences, knowledge, and maturity. And all of us is looking for our own Ithaca.
Beautiful.
Pretty much.
Beautiful.
And our personal supreme goal, it is Ithaca. So it's a metaphorical, as you were saying.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I find it so beautiful. I have it right here. I mean, it's so beautiful. Such a beautiful poem where you say, don't expect anything rich when let's make your travel long. Let's make sure that your travel is very long.
Yeah.
And you're going to encounter some, use a metaphor of, this cyclops and this very scary, so typical of the mythology.
Yeah.
And then he says, but don't be afraid of that.
No.
You shouldn't be afraid. So we shouldn't be afraid. Fear is not something that come into our advantage. So it's like, unless your soul is putting them in front, unless you want to have fear, unless you want to be afraid of this, just don't do that. And let's hope then your travel will be long.
Yeah.
Because in that way it will be rich. And if you find Ithaca poor, don't worry. You think it's going to give you some gift, you're expecting something, a destination. Oh no, you're a changed person.
Yeah.
What you learn through the experience, you have knowledge, you have richness, you have maturity.
And the amazing thing about a destination like that is you never really reach it. It's like the horizon. You say, well, I can see the horizon. I'm going to walk to the end. It's like you'll never reach it. You just keep going and going and going.
And if you like, I could read that.
Yeah.
Do you think people will be interested? So this is Ithaca by Constantino Cavafis. And I'm not the best, but okay, I'll do my best. When you live for Ithaca, may your journey be long and full of adventures and knowledge. Do not be afraid of Lestigons, of Cyclops, of furious Poseidon. You won't come across them on your way if you don't carry them in your soul. So this is the main thing. So the cleansing of the mind, the cleansing of everything, of all that, if your soul does not put them in front of your steps. I hope your road is long. May there be many a summer morning, and may ports for the first time seen bring you great joy. May you stop at Phoenician marts to purchase there the best of wares, mother of pearl and coral, amber, ebony, Edonic perfumes of all sorts. May you go to various Egyptian towns and learn from a people with so much to teach. Don't lose sight of Ithaca, for that your destination, but take your time. Better than the journey lasts many a year, and that your boat only drops anchor on the island when you have grown rich with what you learn on the way. Don't expect Ithaca to give you many riches. Ithaca is already giving you a fine voyage. Without Ithaca, you would never have parted. Ithaca gave you everything and can give you no more. If the end you think that Ithaca is poor, don't think that she has cheated you, because you have grown wise and lived an intense life, and that's the meaning of Ithaca. So hope you don't mind. I just love it so much.
No, that's beautiful, beautiful, you know. And yeah, I mean, Ithaca is more than just a place. It's more of a, it's not a final destination. It is a destination of a sort. But it's like, I think of like people who climb mountains. They climb a mountain, and then you know, and then what do? They want to come back next season and do it again and again and again, you know, because the discovery, and every time there are new encounters along the way to the adventure. And I also think of this, you know, like in the story of the Odyssey, we think of like Poseidon sending storms against him, you know. And so we say, well, okay, so, you know, the primal forces of nature are conspiring to make my life difficult. Are they really? I mean, the wind blows, you know, and it fills sails, you know, going one direction, and it pushes sails, you know, against the wind in another direction. So it's always filling somebody's sails, you know. You know, it's a matter of living in harmony with all the elements out there, you know, and overcoming these. I mean, in the example of Odysseus, he used cunning to battle almost every obstacle he had, and he never really hated any of his oppressors, if you want to call them that. He saw them as just challenges, you know, to keep him from going forward, you know, and then he would go past them. I mean, keep in mind, this man spent a long time with Circe's, and then he left. Yeah.
And then there's something else. Then I see a correlation between Ulysses and Arjun.
Yeah.
Arjun and Ulysses, both of them in different circumstances, they did not want to go to battle.
No.
In fact, Ulysses, he had just a little new baby, you know, Telemachus, and you know, and his father Laerte, and he said, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." And then the people of the law say to him, "Then we're gonna kill your son. If you don't go to battle, you're not gonna have a son anymore." So, well, no, I will go. The other time, Arjun is there, you know, is on a chariot, you know, as a chief hero in the Gita, actually in the, you know, in the battle Kurukshetra, and then there is the charioteer is Krishna, you know, and he said, I don't know, you know, he's one of the Pandava, you know, is a prince, you know, of the five brothers, and he's the third one. And he said, I don't want to go against my cousin. Look at, I mean, these in front of me are my cousin, they're my brothers. And Krishna said to him, but if you don't go, they will kill all your people behind you. So you have to go. So this action, I see the sense of ready for action. In a sense, if we don't take action, the virtues, the true virtue is our action. To act on your own diamond, to really reach, you know, in Greek, you know, Aristotle was saying about the true meaning of life is to reach happiness, eudaimonia, eu. Eu means well, daimon is the demon, but the demon is really the strength that we have inside. So what would it be to reach happiness? It to accomplish the desire that we have. So the source of life, then we have the spirit that is inside of us, is promoting us to become and to continue the hero journey.
I mean, Krishna pretty well indicated that he had to take action. You know, that's part of living, is taking action. I always think about people on a spiritual path that will often get to a point where they say, well, now this world of illusion I live in is not the real world. There's a higher spiritual world, and I'm going to totally take myself out of this world, and I'm going to become renunciate. And I mean, I lost a teacher that way. I mean, I completely lost him, you know, and it happens again and again, doesn't it? Where someone just kind of holds up and they take themselves out of action. They take them out of the arc of the hero's journey, if you will.
Yeah.
And they say, well, now I'm going to live a life of detachment. I'm not going to cause any harm. And, you know, Arjuna was so concerned that he was going to cause harm.
Mhm.
You know, he said, what is the karma involved there? And he said, well, you know, you can't just sit on the sideline. You cannot just sit on the sideline. This is the world of action. I mean, the world we're in, we must take action. So I think that we've all had a great awakening with all of these people during the pandemic age who gave us great new examples of courage, heroic action. They just seized action. They did something.
Well, I have an example. My dear cousin Elena, she's a doctor in Italy. And you know, Italy was the first hit
Yeah.
from China.
Yeah.
And she's been working. She has 4 children. She has a husband. And when she gets home, she goes into a separate room. She has at the entrance to the left, she has a little shower there and a guest room. And she's been sleeping in that room since the pandemic.
Yeah.
And she has 4 kids and her husband is home with the children.
Yeah.
But she has to go through all that and eat food in her room because she's so afraid of passing that to her 4 kids. So to me, she's a hero. She is my hero.
Yeah.
Even, you know, when we say lockdown, here we have no idea what lockdown really is. People could not leave the house. You could get arrested. You could leave the house just to go once a week to the grocery store. You have a card with a punch.
Yeah.
Okay. My whole family lived there.
Yeah.
I'm the only one here. So you can imagine and I was calm to say, I know they know what they're doing, but for us to complain, we can't even imagine. I mean, you know, she hasn't hugged her 4 kids since March of 2020.
So
you can imagine you're a mother.
Yeah.
Sometimes she calls me in the middle of the night crying, say, I want to hug my baby, but I know then I cannot. So, and how brave is her husband to be loving and taking care of the 4 kids.
Yeah.
But so, you know, this is a mission to me. I'm sorry, I'm saying this story because to me, it touched me so personally, you know.
Yeah.
But I see, you know, the loving care and tender care that she has for everyone. To me, she's something special. So I like to share this because it really touched my family, you know.
And how long does it last? I mean, many people are saying that they have this pandemic fatigue. They want it to be over. It's over. This is not a game. I mean, this is real life. This is as real as it gets. You know, this is high stakes. This journey we're all on, and you can either be part of change or you can become changed along the way. You know, we're all in this, whether we want to take an active role in the change or not. One of my friends always reminds me of you can either be part of the change or you can be part of the compost.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like if something wrong happened to one person or one injustice happened to one person, that injustice happened to all of us.
All of us. Yeah.
All of us. We're not, you know, if we see something, then it's not right. To one person is done to all of us. We are part of it.
Yeah, that was the example of the Grail quest, was that the whole kingdom suffered because the king suffered because they weren't whole, they weren't spiritually whole, and that they had not discovered the truth of the Grail, of the Grail quest, and they had to find it. It was important to find it. And it's like Ithaca. It's not a concrete thing. It's a metaphor for something bigger.
Yes.
And I want to jump in and say, everybody else, what things are what are coming up for you? What thoughts do you have? Please chime in. We want to hear from you. Anyone else? Just unmute yourself and jump in.
There's a part of me that just kind of believes or wants to believe that today anyone who is let's say a thinking person who is not often curled up in a fetal position is doing a pretty good job given the problems of the day. And I'm so appreciative of, like, for example, my wife and I we've used grocery delivery service for most of the duration of the pandemic. We really appreciate those people that pick our order and deliver it to our door. My daughter is a nurse, and I won't say I've lost nights of sleep over her, but I sure have been stressed for many days, given just the problems of being a nurse during a pandemic time. And I'm sure this is, like I say, just existing, like you say so much on today is just makes you kind of a hero if you're not just what do you say, in the bottle, or so to speak, or just watching I don't know, streaming TV all the time, just trying to avoid everything avoid thinking about what's happening in this world, given this tremendously difficult time we've been in for the past 2 years.
Yeah, well said. Some of these calls that people accept, are like being a nurse, are very difficult, challenging assignments. I've known enough nurses, probably not as many as some of you, but the ones I've known always talk about nurse burnout. It's a real thing, and I would imagine right now how difficult it is to be in this situation. These are real heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was thinking about with everyday heroes, sometimes the place I help as an interim chaplain occasionally, a long-term care facility, the chaplain who I know, who's also a friend now, she has her own set of physical challenges and other challenges. And during COVID times, especially, I remember walking in the door one day. I mean, I wasn't even allowed in there during lockdown because I'm interim, but I remember going toward the door, the entrance, and thinking about her and all the devotion she and the staff have had, to the residents. And I remember that a sentence came into my head saying, she's an everyday hero. I remember thinking that. And I remember telling her that when she returned from wherever she was. But these people were amazing. And so I'm just adding that to the story about these people who've devoted so much, even in their own challenges.
And then there are people that, are paid very poorly, and they do tremendous work, like in nursing homes. They get notoriously poor pay.
Oh, yeah.
It's a terribly challenging job. I remember volunteering once just to, to go and help out a little bit. It's exhausting, the work. It's emotionally and physically exhausting, the work they do. And they get paid very poorly. They have very bad working conditions. And I don't know why that is, because there's a lot of cost incurred in going to a nursing home. But the staff that is there very seldom sees any of the tangible rewards. They obviously are getting some kind of other reward from this kind of service. And for them to do this work, I remember when it first hit in the United States, the pandemic was centered around North Seattle. And it kind of hit like about 2 miles from where my son and grandchildren live in the Kenmore area, Bothell. And it hit a nursing home. And remember, you'd rap on the window, but you couldn't go inside. Well, just think about the people that work there. You know, it was a living hell in that environment, you know, and it never ends. The long days, the long work weeks, the poor pay. And we begin to see it now. We begin to see it now because we're all thinking of the people that are in the nursing home, so vulnerable in the pandemic age. But this has always been their mission. Takes a special person.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can jump in,
Please, yeah.
can you all hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, thank you.
Okay, because I was driving and I was listening as well. Finally, I'm kind of home. So, well, so I was really touched by Von Brauner's, I may be pronouncing your name totally wrong, but and the lady who mentioned about her niece or somebody being in Italy. I was touched by the statement that you made that, you know, sometimes we are struck as a nation, we are struck by certain calamities because of certain things that get done, right, spiritually. And I totally believe that spiritually, when somebody, an individual or a group of people or nations are oppressed, their thoughts and their feelings are heard by whatever you want to call.
We lost.
Afraid we lost him.
Yeah. Oh, we
But-
can't hear you. Could you repeat that? Hello? Oh.
You know, that was certainly the case in India, you know.
Years and years to impact us.
Oh,
He's back. You cut out for a minute. Could you repeat that? Can you hear us?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah. What I was saying is that you know, Nemesis, the old Greek mythological figure of Nemesis,
yeah,
clubbed foot,
yeah.
walks slowly, and comes in the individual or groups at a period of time. That time can take you know, years sometimes, and sometimes it's almost instantaneous. And so I do believe that, you know, some of these impacts that societies and nations are facing are because of certain activities that they all did in the past.
Yeah.
And, you know, the lady mentioned about Italy. And what came to me first was, yes, Italy was affected by this pandemic the first. But if you go back a few years, Italy was also one of the first countries that treated migrants and refugees extremely terribly, and they put them into, you know, various situations that are very similar to the lockdown that Italy is facing today. And I also remember seeing a poster of people wearing masks, and this is in Italy. I saw a poster of some Italians walking past. It was a picture. It was a photograph, and next to where they were walking was a poster. And here there were these people wearing masks, and on the poster was a fascist. It was a fascist poster condemning the Muslim women who were over there wearing their face covering. And I said, how interesting this is, you know, the comparison.
Yeah.
So I believe in this, you know, in this thing about our spirituality affecting us as a nation, as a community, and as a family and an individual as well.
Yeah. Nobody is making fun of Muslim women wearing face masks anymore. They're right in style, aren't they? In fact, they were ahead of the curve. And you think of all the Asian countries that knew how to combat colds and flus by wearing masks. Then you think of the people who said, oh, we don't need that. We're so special. We don't need that. And now I think we're going to come out of this probably thinking how very clever these people were to wear masks, you know. every time that there was anything that could be spread, any kind of influenza or virus.
I was thinking about the unsung heroes of just parents taking care of kids with everything that's happening, working at home and doing Zoom school and then yes, the other level of this of the children can't be vaccinated, so then they do have to separate, and there are lots of doctors and nurses living, I mean, at least for a while, living in the motorhomes outside their house. And because so that they could keep away from their family. And now there's, maybe vaccinations above 12 or something. So maybe it's a little better, but they're still.
That's right, Hope. And also teachers, teachers.
I was thinking teachers.
Yeah,
teachers
because they would go into a classroom where nobody was vaccinated. Now they're going to vaccinate the children, finally. But the teachers, would go into a totally dangerous environment, and then they'd come home and they'd have to segregate themselves from their own family.
Yeah.
So, this is part of this never-ending journey of the arc of the hero's journey, is maybe next time you come back as a child and you see it from a different perspective, thinking of reincarnation, and maybe you come back as if you were a child, you come back as a parent, and then you learn something else from that experience, and every role, every assignment that we have, every call to action is a learning experience. If we can learn from the experience and gain insight and transform ourselves along life's journey.
And who knows how much transformation this is installing in the whole consciousness of the planet. We don't know yet because we're too in it, but it is startling to me to think of this arc. Where would you, now this is kind of a deep question, but in the hero's journey, where is humanity right now in the cycle related to the pandemic? Are we out of the black?
I think we're going in. I think we're in the abyss.
Are we still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in the abyss, and we're trying to get out. We're trying to save our soul and be reborn as new people, and then we'll come out of this with a whole changed way of looking at things. But right now, we're just like shocked by what we've seen. It's chaos in the abyss.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts, guys? Any questions for Vaughn or thoughts? Jump in.
I have.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just I'm fascinated by the gate challenge.
Yeah.
And I know getting into the Emerald City, that's like, oh yeah, okay, that made sense. It kind of put it in perspective for me.
Yeah.
But could you give other examples of like gate challenge? And I know I'm not being very specific, but.
Well, I try to think how it's been a long time since I last read the Odyssey, but I think when they first start off leaving the war behind them, sailing for Ithaca, there's a tremendous storm that almost wrecks their boat, and they're thinking like, oh my gosh, maybe we shouldn't even go to Ithaca. It's like, this is like the gate challenge, and it's like, it seems like when you accept a challenge like this and you leave the known world behind, accept the call to go on this very difficult journey, that there's right away some tremendous challenge in front of you that says, no, it's a wall. It says, you're not getting past, go back. And a lot of people just go back. They say, well, this is a sign that I'm not supposed to go forward. No, it's a challenge to see if you're tough enough to go forward. I don't know, maybe someone else has some more examples.
I do. I was thinking, I don't remember the Iliad and the Odyssey very well either, but I remember reading a book that struck me because the person was trying to figure out the real world path that they took, because it was metaphor, but there was also probably myth making about people's actual journeys. and sort of a warning of how to go here and there and what to avoid. And I remember something about, it's like I can't remember geography, but it's like the rock. I don't think it's the Rock of Gibraltar, but it's this actual area that's super hard to get through because of the area, and it's literally like it is a barrier for sailing, and you have to be really skilled to not get pulled into the rocky area because of the mass of whatever this is that you have to get around. So I remember that from that, but I also was thinking of Harry Potter, and because I love all of those. I read the books. I'm such a geek. I watched the movie. I read the books of the Hunger Games too, and then I watched the movies, and they always disappoint because the books are so much better, guys. Read the book. But okay, so the barrier in Harry Potter, of course, is running to the wall, and then they have to be brave enough to take their luggage and run the wall and trust that you're going to pass through it, because I think someone even bounces off it once, because he didn't quite get his face correct, and so there's lots of those metaphors in just throughout. And I don't know. I think she was intuitively doing this. I don't think that she studied Theosophy or anything. She's just brilliant.
Well, actually, the woman that wrote the Harry Potter series, what was her name?
Rowling.
R.K. Rowling. Okay.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling. So she's the daughter of a lifetime theosophist.
Oh my God!
Oh. Oh wow.
So she knows she knows theosophy.
Oh God. Okay, there you go then. That explains
So
it.
she knew a little bit what she's talking about.
I have something interesting here that you all will love to the end. This is what in Dante Inferno, and I will read that in English for you, is the Canto 26, Circle 8 in Bolgia 8, where there is Ulysses, through Dante talking and say, shipmate. So they want to go back. They say, no, this is too hard. The Gibraltar, okay? Shipmates, I say, who through 100,000 perils have reached the West, do not deny to the brief remaining watch our senses stand, experience of the world behind the sun. Greeks, you were not born to live. You were not born to live like brutes, but to press on toward manhood and recognition. With this brief exhortation, I made my crew so eager for the voyage, I could hardly have held them back from it when I was through. And turning our stern toward morning, our boat toward night, we bore southwest, out of the world of man. We made wings of our oars for our fool's flight. So I just want to give you something beautiful here.
And I'd just like to add one thing, that this journey we're talking about need not be necessarily a physical journey. It also can be a journey inside your mind. It can be not a physical course that you follow at all. You don't actually have to go wandering in a toothless land. You don't actually have to leave your family behind. That too is a metaphor. That this idea of wandering, out there and encountering all these storms and one-eyed monsters. It's sometimes a journey inside the mind. It is a spiritual journey. It is a emotional journey. It is a mental stretch of the imagination that you're actually traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Erica, you're right. The gate challenge is like a leap of faith. It is like a leap of faith. Yeah. So you have to actually take that leap of faith.
Yeah, sometimes it's like when you get to that edge, you get to the edge of the cliff and you have to jump, and you wait and you wait and wait, and eventually maybe one of your guides kind of pushes you off the cliff and you realize, that's something I learned. Don't wait for them to push you, use your own initiative.
The one, Indiana Jones, where he steps out on the platform forms as he steps out, but it doesn't form to get to the Holy Grail until he steps out into the huge abyss, literally.
Right, the abyss.
And then he puts his foot and there's glass. And it goes, you remember that? From
Yeah,
Oh, God, of course. But I'm just realizing all these. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's so. All the great
Good visual.
stories, all the great stories are really about
and
the ark.
Moses and the Dead Sea.
Yep,
Parting the Dead Sea. There's the barrier. Parts it.
parts it.
There you go.
Yeah,
And
The
Moses
base
was
is
a great hero.
communication. Communication. We need to establish this, the relationship, the community. What we're having tonight, this is like oxygen. This is, for our heart. This is like the strength that we get from this gathering, all of you with my heart, col mio cuore. Then we are in here because this is the only way that we can keep strengthening. The more we isolate ourselves, the more we feel the fear, we will become a society of insects.
yes,
Okay, we don't want to do that. We don't
Yes.
want to be, then we don't even feel anything. We don't see anything.
Yeah.
This is, so what we're getting tonight is this sense of strength in battle. This is like we're combating in this battle and we're holding hands, you know, not physically, but we really feel the energy. Remember, this energy is going through the internet and we all connected as one.
Yeah.
So this is actually a triumph in our sense of hero making.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Vaughn.
thank you.
Your knowledge is fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. It all starts with one step followed by one more step. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you for the Minneapolis Theosophical Society for sponsoring this. And we hope to see you all in 2 weeks.
Yeah, thank you, Vaughn. Thank you. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good night, all.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
And don't blow
Bye-bye.
away, Vaughn. Don't blow away. Be well.
That
Okay.
was wonderful, wonderful.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. You are
This is
incredible.
what happened to
souls.
my tree.
Thank you.
It blew
Thank you for
down.
your loving.
Oh, no.
Did your tree?
Oh,
You
Yeah.
really are incredible souls. I can really truly feel you're very wonderful. And I feel very privileged to have seen you, to see you, to listen. This brings faith into me that there are people that are really loving and are trying to really, humankind, to get out of this dark wood.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
yeah.
Good night,
All
all.
for being
Good
here.
night.
Blessings.